adjust your camera. The reason Dino looks so relaxed is because he just got back from a nice little Italian vacation. I met Dino earlier this year. I'm really appreciative to have this opportunity to talk with you, Dino. So, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm definitely relaxed, still coming off of a good vacation high, but no, excited to be back with the team here at Fifth Century, and yeah, we're cranking away.
I love that. You were actually one of the catalysts for wanting to set up these conversations because when I met you earlier this year, it was great to hear about your background, kind of growing up in a blue collar family, going to Notre Dame. I love the fact that you boxed at Notre Dame and then you're in finance and now private equity. Can you just give me on your background?
Grew up in Rochester, New York. My family is all in the trades. My dad started Swan Tile and Marble back in the late '80s, early '90s, just as a tile mason right out of high school, and he continued his career to today. He's still a tile mason. All my uncles are brick masons or stone masons of different sorts. So growing up, it was the trades were kind of all around me. I worked with my dad from the age of 13 to getting through college, so had a strong experience in all that, which was incredibly great from just a standpoint of learning about the trades, but also learning great work ethic. I often looked at my dad and my uncles as real role models in that respect for kind of how to kind of get the work done and do it in a timely and efficient manner. And when it came time for me thinking about going to college, no one in my family had gone to college. My dad, for his part, he didn't go to college, but he always pushed getting as educated as you could be. He was very much a strong proponent of that, which I thank him tremendously for. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you in our past conversations, Mike, but I actually applied to Notre Dame on a bet. My uncle bet my dad I couldn't get into Notre Dame if I wanted to. And so I had to get in. And then once I got in, I didn't know where it was. I was like, all right, that's great. I'd never watched a Notre Dame football game, but then got in, visited, and I was blown away. So I was like, I got to go here. We made it work, and it was incredible. I got to study finance and economics. I met my wife. I got to box, as you mentioned. We don't need to look at my statistics because it wasn't the best, but you've said oftentimes to me, Mike, it's about being in the arena. It's the man in the arena. It was a great time. Every guy I fought, you had such a good camaraderie with before and after the fight as well. It was all about the spirit of competition and being in the ring together, which was a great life lesson in a lot of ways because competition's healthy. It's what makes us strong. I was getting towards the end of my time at Notre Dame. I went into recruiting for investment banking just because that was what all my friends were doing at the time. I really was trying hard to recruit. I ended up with BMO Capital Markets here in Chicago, worked on sell-side and buy-side transactions across a number of different sectors. Being from, in the Chicago office, we were largely focused on Chicago industries. So you think industrials, food, consumer, retail, a little bit of tech, but definitely heavy on the industrials, which was nice given my background was kind of in that realm as well.
You had to box to fit in with your dad and your uncles at
Yes,
Thanksgiving to try to like make sure you could get
exactly.
some food on your plate. But just thinking about how that upbringing stacks together, and we haven't gotten there yet to your story, but to where you are today. And in particular, I have this quote stuck in my head about everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's not taking the punch to the face, it's how you respond. And that's very much how lower middle market business is.
100%. 100%. And from my experience with BMO, I started to really get an appreciation for that lower middle market sector and kind of where these businesses were. I mean, the part that I was really finding interesting in my job was the founder aspect, working with founders who built these great companies, had family run businesses, sometimes multi generational businesses. And I wanted to get more into that. In banking, you get to see a lot of deals, but eventually you get a little tired of, okay, you did the transaction, and the second you got close with the founder, you got close with the business model, you knew all of these great things about their growth plan, you just went to the next deal. It was very transactional. It wasn't really what I was looking for. So after doing some soul searching in banking, I'm going to switch over to the buy side and ended up with a group called Envision Capital. Was there for a few years. It was a great testing ground, great place for training, and got to see a lot more of those founder-run businesses. Had some great opportunity to meet some great founders, even some construction product business. After a couple years there, was thinking, okay, maybe I'll kind of shift firms, but stay within the realm. And Marcus, who we both I know quite well. He was starting Fifth Century Partners at the time, and they were looking for an associate. I hit it off with the team well there, and I joined in November of 2021.
One of the things I really like about Fifth Century is you guys have experience from all different angles. I mean, you have experience as obviously Marcus was an operator. You kind of came up on every side of the deal transaction. It's competitive out there. I mean, there are so many. You talked earlier about these legacy businesses. There are these first, second, third generation family businesses where, for whatever reason, maybe the next generation is not in a position to take on the business today. Private equity, there's a lot of dry powder sitting on the sidelines. And now you get these young MBAs that are starting their own search funds and they're doing ETA. And so the environment is much more competitive. You're a plumber in Cleveland, Ohio. You're probably getting 100 of these outbound calls a month. And so, how do you think about differentiating in that type of environment? How do you think about really connecting with those founders? What's important? What are people missing?
No, I mean you're absolutely right. My even as another data point, my dad, Swan Tile, I think he gets a call every day, and he's just like, I just want to work. I'm just he's like I'm fielding all these calls constantly, but it's funny that there's just so much activity. You're so right. As far as what we do to try and differentiate ourselves, because it is competitive out there, is we really try and put our best foot forward as to how we view partnerships and how we view these potential investments. A lot of people go into it and think, okay, if I can just go in and get the right math and it can all work out. There's definitely a spot for that because the math does need to work. You need to make the deal structure all make sense. But at the end of the day, it's a partnership, and so we really put a heavy focus early on in building the relationship with the people. We figure out, and we've done it too. There's been businesses that I've loved, like business model. I'm like, this is the one I just need to do this deal. And Marcus has done a good job of helping me kind of realize too, it's about the people. And sometimes the people aren't the right people that are going to partner with you along the way. And so it's getting out in front of early on, hey, can we have a good professional business relationship? And, we've had a great time, getting to know you, Mike, over the past year or so. I think you can kind of see how we work, and our style is to be a lot more just people-oriented and people-focused early on. I mean, that kind of puts us, I think, in a rung above some of the folks who are just, cold calling every day and just saying, hey, I want to buy your business for 4 times. It's going to be great. We're going to do all these things. We kind of come into it and say, hey, we think that you have a great business, but more importantly, we think together we can do something really special. And really, at the end of the day, we're going to be working with the people we work with and being with them a lot more than we will anyone in the world. Maybe not our families, but let's make it that we're working with people that we really like being around. And that's kind of where we have a bit of a competitive advantage, I think.
I totally agree. What's important to me being in the operator seat is that continuity with a sponsor, that cultural alignment, and there's doing the right thing and there's doing the right thing. And from my perspective and my interactions with 5CP, it's never wrong to do the right thing. And what's really attractive about your firm and the mandate that you guys are building out is you're putting that energy out there to attract great operators. Great operators are going to help give these legacy business owners kind of the comfort and confidence to be able to take that family business from here to there and so on. I would just going back to Swan Tile for a second. Hopefully, you guys can get exclusivity on that when your dad is ready. Hopefully, that's not a robust auction process. Hopefully,
Try to make it as proprietary as I can.
I think this is a great opportunity to kind of shift into some of these questions, and I'm really interested. I'm going to let you kind of take this question whichever way you want, but again, I think it's more about giving advice to either your younger self or a 17, 18-year-old today. And I think it's really obviously you weren't there that long ago, but kind of someone early in their career entering adulthood. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, I think it's a bit twofold. One is I think you have to really put yourself in a position for success, and by that I mean, there's a lot of things around. For example, if you want a career in private equity, you got to do the banking, you got to do all these things. It's a tough job. It's not easy, but putting yourself in those positions, studying finance, making the sacrifices to go to college, I think those are the ones that lead you up for success. But at the same time, you have to stay true to your background. as we've kind of mentioned here, tile, masonry, construction, first generation, to go to college. That's a lot of my background. And I think early on in my career, I was a little reticent. I think, when I was in banking, I was like, all right, let's just fold in. Let's just be the finance guys. Let's, wear the Patagonia vest. Carry the banker bags. Let's do all that, because I'm done with my background. That's not what I want. But it was only in realizing that what made me unique and made me special was my background, was the fact that I grew up, working with my dad, to have a job. We'd do a car dealership. We'd be laying tile all day long. We'd go eat dinner, and then we'd do a night job at the airport, and we'd do it was just like that was the type of things that not only gave me a strong work ethic, but made me different and really allowed me to kind of be ahead of some of my peers that I was working with. So I think that'd be kind of it. It's put yourself in a position for success, but don't forget where you came from and use where you came from as an advantage. Because at the end of the day, that's so much about what makes you you and what's going to make you successful.
You're a better blue collar evangelist than me. I mean, to my point, it's there to have the kind of academic pedigree you have and professional experiences that you've had to this point, but also to have that relatability and kind of the blue collar work ethic coursing through your blood. That puts you in a very, very unique kind of unicorn type environment, which is a great way to kind of go into this next question. The teammates that you have to deal with on a regular basis, you have LPs, you have GPs, you have owner operators, you have professional operators. How do you want people to think about Dino Swan?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I really would like to, kind of be thought of as someone who is, willing to be collaborative, but also willing to put in the work alongside you. I think oftentimes people, get to certain levels of their career, and again, you've mentioned I'm still early on in my career. I got a decent runway to go, but I think folks as they kind of matriculate up start to say, okay, I can push things off. I can just be like, let the junior folks do that. I think it's very important to be a teammate across all areas and be collaborative as you continue on, and so be willing to do everything from the very nitty gritty to working alongside the founders to getting on the phone with folks who are senior, who are LPs, and really along the path just be very collaborative and open and transparent.
You talked about one of my favorite values, one of my favorite speeches, obviously the man in the arena. And I think of myself as a very values driven person. I think you are much of the same. Give me the first kind of personal value that comes to mind and why is it important for you?
So I won't take yours because I do love yours. Just to be a little
Thank
bit,
you.
I'll say, I think it's a broader quote. I forget who said it, but people will never remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Is a big, big attribute for me. I try and when we think about work and how we're working together, I try not to take myself too seriously because 20 years from now, are people going to remember a deal I did or even like what I said in an investment committee meeting? Probably not. I mean, I'm funny, but I'm not that funny that it's that memorable. But if you think about longer term, how do I want people to remember? I want them to remember working with Dino was a great time because he had respect, he was enjoyable to work with, and I just really enjoyed being around him, being a part of him. So that's kind of what I try and bring to every day. It's even in the small things. I think we had a large investment committee meeting a couple weeks back. It was a big deal we were bringing in. And, it's a very serious time. You got to be there. 3-hour long meeting that you're basically leading. And I show up in a Looney Tunes tie because it's like, I'm serious and, I'm wearing a tie. It's going to be a big event. But let's not take ourselves too seriously. Let's remember that we're trying to enjoy our time over here together. And the meeting went great. It was a great time. We're moving forward on the deal. Things are going well. But I think it's important to remember that people are going to remember a lot more how you made them feel than what you say at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to need a picture of that tie. Number one, I'm going to link to your LinkedIn, the Fifth Century Partner website, all that stuff. But again, I'm a raving fan of what you and Marcus and the rest of the team are building. I'm grateful to obviously have the friendship. Feel very fortunate that we're in the same backyard in Chicagoland. So continue to be excited about rooting on your success. Thanks for spending some time with me this morning, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me, Mike. That's been great.
See you, buddy.